Thank you for that, and good to see some. Good to see some other. Some. I nearly said old faces, but Clive wouldn't like that. Some faces that have been around uncovering greatness and our team for a while. So great to see you guys back in the room as well. So so awesome. So welcome. If you just write in the chat box who's been on a webinar with me or been in one of my rooms before. You wouldn't mind just writing yes or no. Okay, great. Cool, thank you. So yeah, so who's never been with me before, been in one of our rooms, been on a webinar? If you just type in no, it'll give me a good idea. Okay, cool. So yeah, so a couple of you haven't, most of you have. So for those of you that haven't, just as Martin said, my name is Barry Mitchell. I have a business called Uncovering Greatness. For over 20 years, I've specialized in the field of sales and entrepreneurship, and in the last decade, I've worked very closely with a guy called Blair Singer, who's one of Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad advisors, and probably one of Robert's closest friends. And I've been able to work with Blair for the last 10 years. He's been a mentor, business partner, and now a really great friend of mine. And we built an organization together called the Blair Singer Training Academy, which is really focused on growing and building teachers and trainers around the world to teach and train the way we teach and train, and hopefully to create an impact. And through that, I've been very blessed to get to work with Robert Kiyosaki, and recently in the last sort of 24 months, had the opportunity of working with Robert on developing a program called Awaken Your Financial Genius, which is a program that we started running last year, and it's now in its second year. So I'll chat a little bit about that towards the end. But tonight's so tonight really I'm just going to talk and teach really from the perspective of creating wealth and maybe becoming financially free. And tonight's topic really is, where do I put my money? So I don't know how many of you like me. I have a much better understanding now on where to put my money and where my money creates results. But a number of years ago, I was just really confused often about where I should put my money, what should I do with my money, and I got stuck in two areas. One, I either didn't do anything with it, and because I didn't do anything with it, I tended to spend it. Okay, so that was the one area that I got stuck in. The other areas, I watched what other people were doing, didn't really have the knowledge and the understanding around it, that I ended up doing some things like I got into property but didn't really know what I was getting into. And 2 years, it wasn't really a property, it was just a deep hole. A great lesson, and I learned a lot from it. But how many of you can connect with that type of thinking? It's like, I know that there's more to what I should be doing. I am putting my money in places, but right now I don't know if I'm getting a return, and I don't have a lot of confidence in going out to get a return because I don't know enough. How many of you can connect to that? Okay, great. Thank you. So how many of you might be able to connect with this? I know what to do, but I don't have enough money. That's the other side to it. I know what to do. I've been on these courses, and I've been on stock trading, and I've learned about this. I just don't have money. Okay, so I'm gonna address that one up front, because that one is what the previous webinar was, which was about sales. So generating income is about selling, because it's about creating money so that you can then utilize that income in order to put it somewhere other than spend it on things. Okay. There's a third part is some of you are doing exceptionally well. You know how to make money. You're making money. You're investing it, but you also just want to take it to a whole new level, and you want to take it to somewhere much bigger, and ultimately maybe it's not even about yourself anymore. It's about creating something different in life, for maybe even for other people, creating and having a much bigger purpose and a much bigger game. How many of you would fit into maybe that third category? Is you're making money, you know how to make money, you know how to make money work for you, but you want to create something different. Anyone fit into that category? Okay, cool. So how many of you that might fit into one of the first two categories would really like to fit into the third category and make a significant difference in the world, not only for yourself, but to be able to create enough wealth that you can really help and affect other people's lives on the positive? I don't know about you, but that for me is the ultimate thing, is to be able to create enough wealth so that I can make a significant difference. Okay, good. Well, there's a number of you that are saying, that's me. Yes, I like that. Okay, great. So you fit into one of three categories, or two, or all three. The key component is, tonight we're going to talk about, where do I put my money? Now that's quite an interesting question, because in the years that I've been around Robert Kiyosaki, I've watched, and he says this. He says, a lot of people come to me after seminars, and the question that they ask is, Robert, tell me, what do I need to do with my money? And the one thing I think I love about Robert Kiyosaki is he won't tell you what to do with your money. He'll tell you what he does with his money. He'll tell you where he invests, what he does, but he will not say, go do this. And there's a reason for that. But I love what he says. I love what he says about creating, about where to put your money. He says, his poor dad said, I'm not interested in money. His rich dad said, if you're not interested in your money, someone else is. So, as he says, the question I'm often asked is, what should I do with my money? And I'll read his reply. His reply, he says, is often this: please do not announce to the world that you are clueless with money. If you do not know what to do with your money, there are millions of people who will tell you what to do. In many cases, what they tell you is, give your money to me. How many of you ever been caught in that trap? You don't know what to do with it. You tell somebody, or you go to somebody, they know what to do with your money, and they did with your money what you didn't actually want them to do. So in terms of that, what to do with your money really is, how much do we know about where to put our money? Because if we don't know what to do with it, somebody else does. So the other side of that is, if you don't know what to do with your money, well, you do what most of the world does, and that's just spend it. That's give it to somebody else to buy something to get what you need. So let's just kick off and start, I suppose, from the beginning. Stephen Covey has one of his habits is one of his habits is begin with the end in mind. So why don't we start there? Let's begin with the end. Let's begin with the end in mind. Dirk, yeah, your comment there: God's money, people's money, and government's money. So when you're looking at money at the moment, Kiyosaki teaches really there's three types of money in the world right now. One is government money, so that's fiat currency, and that's controlled and run by governments. Two, there's people's money. So those of you that are involved or looking or heard of, pretty much I'm going to doubt that there's anyone in this call that hasn't heard of cryptocurrency. You might not be doing it, using it, understanding it, but I'm pretty sure you've heard of it. And there'll be many different little voices around this room, if you want me to call it, in terms of cryptocurrency. And Robert calls that people's money. It's created by the people, and to a large degree, created by the people in some sectors to circumvent governments, to circumvent the control that they have. And then the third type of money is God's money, and that really is, when I hear Robert speak, that's where he is very passionate about is and God's money is gold and silver. It's always been around. It has it held its value, and so thank you for that comment. So Robert's still massive in property, and he talks a lot about property. He's talking a bit about virtual currency, about cryptos, but still property and gold and silver and oil is where he really lies. So yeah, first step is understand what is money. So let's go to begin with the end in mind. So I want to ask you two questions. Where are you now? So in terms of your baseline, where do you sit? And where are you now in terms of your baseline? Do you understand where you sit? Do you understand your financial story? So, as those of you that have read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Cash Flow Quadrant, those type of things, you'll know that that what Robert teaches is be very clear on your financial story. So what is your level of income? What is your level of expenses? What are your assets? And what are your liabilities? Now, to start off with, that's an area that I see a lot of people failing. Let me rephrase it. I don't like the word fail, but it's an area where I see a lot of people being very unclear on where they sit. They think they know where they sit, and it's a fact of many people. What comes in. For some of you, what goes out, but for many people, they just put their head in the sand. Okay, so that, in terms of that, the first step is: are you clear on where you're at? Are you clear on what it is and where you're sitting? What is your baseline? The second question is, what is it that you need? So in terms of your financial future, where are you now, and what is it that you need? So creating that baseline, what is it that you need? So what is your current expense? If it's 50K, how much money do you need in order to become financially free? How much wealth do you need to create in order to be able to do what you want to do? And maybe your goal is not financial freedom. So in the Rich Dad world, the definition of financial freedom, anyone tell me? Just type it in for me. What's Robert's definition of financial freedom? Okay, good. So thank you, Grant. So when your passive income, so essentially when your income that comes out of these things called assets is greater than your expenses. So when your passive income is greater than your expenses, you are financially free. Okay, so passive income, Abdullah, you're correct, is when you start making money from assets while you're sleeping. So when you're not working, because most people have to get they got to get a job in order to generate income, whereas the rich and the wealthy understand that you build assets. So, so, so in terms of, so the first step is, where do you sit in terms of income? What income are you generating? How much of your income is passive income, and how much of your income is active income? My observation, most people, that was a generalization, but most people, probably 90 to 95% of the world, most of their income, the majority of their income sits over here. It's active income. If you don't go to work, if you don't run your business, if you don't sell what you're selling, you don't earn any money. And that's probably 90 to 95%. 5% of the world, the rich and the wealthy, they build these things called assets. Now, I'm going to hazard a guess. There's not many of you on this call that don't understand this concept. My question to you is, how many of you are actively doing it? How many of you are actively doing it? How many of you are actively creating passive income? Out creating passive income, building an asset base, or rather, how many of you are just focused on making money actively? So that's the first step, is understanding where do you sit right now, and then the second step on part of your baseline is, what do you need? So if I'm going to give you an example, if currently, I don't know, you take home 50,000 Rand. If currently you take home 50,000 Rand, well, if you wanted to retire and you want to keep the same level of lifestyle that you have based on 50,000 Rand, how much money do you need to accumulate in order to put it into an asset to generate 50,000 Rand a month? Now, I'm just going to ask you quickly, type in some numbers that you think you need to accumulate in order to generate 50K per month. So wherever you're going to put that, you're going to put it, so 100K. So Dirk, let's just take it that right now, if you wanted to stop working today, what amount of money would you need accumulated in asset value to generate 50K a month? Okay, so Dirk puts 128 million. Okay. Anyone else? Grant, 4 million. $2 million. Okay, so how many of you are seeing what I'm seeing? Varying arrays of our thinking on what amount of capital we have to put away in order to be able to generate 50,000 Rand a month. So I did some quick calculations before I got on this call. So I did this. I went, if you have 1 million Rand right now and you put it into an asset, whatever that asset is, we'll talk about the asset classes just now, but you put it into an asset. If you got 7.5%, so let's say you put it in the money market now, 7.5% is pretty generous. If you got 7.5%, that will give you a monthly return of about 6K, 6,000 Rand a month. Okay, at 7.5%. So you would, so give you about 75,000 Rand a year if you put it into that asset. I don't know, some people say I can get 12%, 15%. Well, let's just say you can get 12%. I just believe 12% is a pretty good return right now. Maybe you could get 20%. But if you got 12% on $1 million, you'd be getting 10K a month. So let's extrapolate that outwards. If you took those figures, you'd need somewhere, depending on your numbers, right now between 5 to 12 million Rand. Ask yourself the question, how close are you? If you want 50,000 Rand a month coming in every month, how close are you to that 5 or 12 million Rand in asset base? So it's an asset. So if you were to buy a 5 million Rand property and rent it out 50,000 Rand a month, and that property is fully paid off, so your 50,000 Rand is net cash flow. In simple terms, how close are you? Ask yourself the question, how close am I to doing that? The second question you need to ask yourself is, how am I going to get it done? Or how am I doing it? So there's a number of ways to do it, and they all through building assets. So before I move on, any questions or comments on setting a baseline? How many of you have suddenly realized if you win the lotto for $2 million, it's not enough? Yeah, Dirk, 100%. We haven't even spoken about inflation, depreciation, future growth, sustainability, petrol prices going up, expenses going up. We haven't even spoken about that. So you're just looking at a baseline which really is measured on today being today and not changing. So how many of you might have just had a little bit of an aha in terms of how we look at what we need in order to be able to do what we need to do? Because what I see with most people is they look at a lump sum and they think, if I have 2 million, look, I'm rich and I got enough enough money. Well, interestingly, maybe the question is, if you wanted to retire, if you had 2 million and it cost you 50,000 Rand a month to live, because that's what the lifestyle you want to live, you have 40 months worth of money. Is that right? 50 million is 100. You have, my brain, 600. You got 2 million. That's 600,000 a year. It's 1.2. You have about 2.5 years. 2.5 years worth of living. If that's what you want it to do. So it's about the accumulation of an asset. It generates cash flow that allows you to cover your expenses to be free. Most people are taught what? Go out and get a, so that you can work for, so you can cover your expenses. School doesn't teach us go out, get a job, make some money, put that money into an asset. So that asset makes more money, and that money covers those expenses. So most people get stuck, I believe, in thinking it's about how much money we create. It's not about what we do with the money that we create. So that's step one. So some of you will be very clear on where you sit, but for some of you, and I love your honesty, Abdullah, for some of you, and Shani, this is scary. For some of you, I'm going to encourage you, for all of us on this call, continuously do this exercise. Where do I sit? What do I have? What do I need? If I had to stop working today, what would I need to be able to generate income? What would I need to be able to live in the manner with which I'm accustomed to? That's why Robert says, wealth is measured in time. It's time-based. How long could you live if you didn't have to go to work tomorrow? How long? So ask yourself that question. If I stop what I do to generate the income that I have, how many weeks, months, years could I live without having to find a job or income again? Is that making sense? Okay, cool. So that is, as Dirk so rightly said, is without even factoring in the things like future growth and expenses, sustainability, depreciation, increased expenses. I mean, some of you on this call, I'm sure, are pretty young. You might not be married yet. You don't have kids. Well, those expenses are going to grow and grow and grow and grow. My oldest daughter just turned 18. I had the enviable task of going to the Virgin Active to now sign up her on a new contract. That alone's just added $5,000 to my expenses for the year. Boom, just like that. Little $400 a month. That's it. So that's continually going to grow without all the other stuff that comes on. Rian says, for most of us today, we can't live a week without our savings. Well, yeah. So, how many of you were taught, go to school, get a good job, get a good education, get a good job, make money, save it, and you'll save yourself. Okay, one of the first things that we do in the Awaken Your Financial Genius program is, Robert, in his book, Why the Rich Get Richer, and we extensively go into it in the Awaken Your Financial Genius program, Robert says savers are losers. And it's a little bit of what Dirk's putting up there, is that things are changing so fast, expenses are going up, and you don't have, you've got to create something different, and savings just won't keep up with it. Ray says you haven't sold enough. So Ray, I agree, because you've got to be selling in order to create that income. But importantly, it's rather than savings. So Rion, you say savings, it's about shifting from savings to investing. Why? Because essentially, if you go to Kiyosaki's cash flow quadrant, what he teaches is the 4 quadrants of making money: employee, self-employed, business owner, and investor. And over here, it's all about work for money. Yeah. So this is go to work for money. A lot of this is about solo, play by myself. Over here, and this is all active. So this side is all active. And most people over here are taught, go and save. Earn money, save, and then one day you'll be able to retire and you'll live on your savings. I don't know how that's working for you, but essentially it's learning how to move or moving across to this. Now, some of you on this call are already in this process. You're already in here. Some of you are not. Some of you are on the left side of the quadrant. So the game is, where are you moving? Why? Because the B and the I side creates the 2 most important words in money, and that's cash and flow. Cash flow. 2 most important words, cash flow. Where are you generating cash flow? Not income, cash flow. And what are you investing in? So that's why Robert says, when you get into the I quadrant, investors, you create cash flow. Cash flow allows you to be able to reinvest. On the other side of the quadrant, you're working for income. It's time for money. It's actively based. So at the end of the day, once you understand that baseline, the next question, I think, is, okay, good. So what do I do with it? Okay, great. So I've got some money. I understand the process. I know my baseline. I know what I need. Now, what am I going to do with it? Well, I suppose the key question that comes up is, what asset will give the best return? Now, I love the way Robert often answers this. He says, well, what asset do you want to give the best return? So people say, how can you say that? He goes, well, what asset do you want? Where are you prepared to learn and to study? Not who can I give my money to give me a return? What am I prepared to learn, to study, in order to be able to create a return? But he talks predominantly around 4 asset classes. Yeah. So what are the four asset classes? 1, paper. So paper assets. So essentially, paper assets, stocks, shares, bonds, those type of things. So that's one option is paper assets, stocks and bonds. The second option is business. Now, personally, for me, this is an area that I love. I love business. I love building business. I love building entrepreneurs. It's what I've done pretty much my whole life, and I have a passion for it. I understand it. So for me, that's an area that I love working in, both traditional businesses and in things like network marketing, helping people build network marketing businesses that create passive income over a period of time. Why? Because if you go back to the quadrant, those things allow you to be able to build a team and move beyond yourself. 3 is commodities. And then 4, obviously the one that Kiyosaki really has created wealth for him, and that is property or real estate. So those are the 4 key assets. Now the question is, which one should you put your money in? Well, which one do you want to put your money in? Which one is the one that gets you? Which is the one that you're prepared to understand, to study, to learn, become part of. So, like I said, for me, it's about business. So my goal is to build businesses that generate cash flow so that I can take the cash flow and ultimately create and grow a property portfolio which creates more cash flow so I can put it into businesses. I'm not really interested in paper because I don't have enough time to study it. I'm not prepared to give my money to somebody else to go put it into paper assets, stocks and bonds if I don't understand. So I'm focused on growing the areas that I can grow, if that makes sense. So Ray says business and property is me. Paper, rich, cash, Paul. Shawnee says I'm definitely in for business. Any other comments around where do you sit? Where's your passion? So the one thing that Robert also says, he says that the one asset that creates results for a reason, because it's easier to get money there, is real estate. Why? Because bankers love real estate. So in your business, can you generate income? Can you generate cash flow that you can then invest into somebody else, somewhere else? And part of Awaken Your Financial Genius is teaching people to start creating this. And the core word is this called awareness. Can you create an awareness on what you need to do and how you need to be able to do it? Because it is a process over time, and it's a learning process. I say that it's not hard to become rich. You can become rich overnight. You can find products to go and sell. You can sell that, and pretty fast overnight you can become rich. But if you don't know what to do with that money, if you don't know what's required to be able to make that money work for you, you'll do what you're doing with the money that you might not have right now. And that might be spending it or putting it in the wrong places. And the same pattern will happen. So a lot of people are stuck on, I need to make a lot of money to get rich and I want to do it overnight. The reality is, what's the difference between making a lot of money and creating money that creates more money, more money? I believe that it's a journey. It's a journey to create this. So those of you on the sales call, I talked a little bit about this in sales, but it's just as applicable in creating in wealth. What are the results you want? And essentially it's, what is it that you want to have? So in order to have something, what is it that you need to do? So the question is, where do I put my money? What do I need to do? So how many times are we getting stuck in what I want to have and what I need to do? So I don't know, take the 50,000 Rand you want a month. Well, what I want to have is I want to have 50K in passive income. Okay, that's good. And everything else that it might bring with it. What do I need to do? Well, that's a question that you're going to have to ask yourself. Well, what do I need to do? Now, that takes study and education. But the most important question is not what do I need to do. It's this. It's who do I need to be? And I'll say it again. Who do you need to be in order to be able to do? Because I've met a lot of people that know what to do, but they're not creating the results that they want to have because they don't have the being. They don't have the mindset. They don't have the spirit. Their being doesn't allow them to create the results they want. So where it starts right up front is the education. First of all, in who do I need to be? And second of all, what is it that I need to do? So can you work on not doing what I want to have, but doing who I need to be? Because when you do who you need to be, it allows you to create the capacity, the mindset, and the opportunity to be able to do what you need to have, if that makes sense. So any comments on this piece around be, do, have? Great. Yeah. So it's around managing your mindset. What is the mind that you need? So when, people say to Robert and Kim Kiyosaki, how did you create the property portfolio that you had or that you've built? Very few people actually understand this. Robert and Kim went out and they studied 100 properties before they ever bought their first one. Why did they do that? Because they wanted to create the mindset and the habits and the subconscious being of what it was to be a property investor. So rather than taking their money and giving it to somebody else to go buy property for them, they went out and they role played, if you want. They simulated buying properties right up to the point of signing on the dotted line without signing on the dotted line, so that they knew what it took to buy the properties. They did the numbers, they did everything, so that by the time they did their first property deal, they had the being and the mindset so that they knew exactly what they were doing. How many of us are jumping straight into that do, and sometimes not even to the do? We're just getting lost in the have, and it's the want to have too quick that creates some of the problems that we have. So, what is it? Who do you need to be? And that really, for me, is the first step in where do I put my money. The first step is put your money into creating the right being first. Then understanding what do I need to do. Then the having will arrive. The having will come. But it's a time-based process of learning and creating the capacity of the being in order to create what you want. So start off, examine your current behaviors. What are your current behaviors? What are the behaviors of someone that is creating wealth? What behaviors do you need to change? How are you going to learn to change those behaviors? And then practice, put them into practice. So who you want to be takes practice. It takes role play. It takes shifting your mindset. It's a conscious decision to create that change. So any questions or comments on what I've gone through this evening? So Dirk, you put a comment earlier on that apparently Robert thinks SA is currently the market to invest in to grow big. What's your thoughts? Dirk, for me, it's pretty simple. And it's me. I am an African. I love Africa. Africa is in my blood. I believe that we have an amazing future ahead of us. It's going to take a lot of work. And where's it going to take work? Pretty simple. Not in the having and not in the doing. It's going to take work in this part, in the being. The more we can change our being, the more we change our mindset, the more we change who we are and what we want to become, the more we'll create greatness in this country and on this continent. So, for me, my investment is in this country, it's in this continent, because I truly believe that that we have greatness sitting right on our doorstep, and it's up to each one of us as an individual to shift the way we think to create a different result. And just for me, it's to stop waiting for somebody else to give us what we want to have or to demand what we want to have, because we're not shifting. And that goes, for me, that goes throughout many people's mindsets. So shifting that. If that makes sense. I just have a passion. When I was in Kenya a couple of weeks ago doing a sales explosion seminar there. We did a 2-day sales explosion. Those of you that were on the sales, in 12 minutes out of that room, we did 90 million rand in sales. That just tells me. And for 2 days, I worked on sales, on the doing of sales, but I worked on little voice and mindset. And after 2 days, we dramatically shifted the mindset of that room. They created some phenomenal results. So, yeah, Evelyn, you want me to go through the asset chart again? Okay, that's cool. So in terms of assets, if it's the one, there's essentially four assets. Yeah, one is paper assets, so stocks and shares, stocks and bonds. Okay, two is business. Three is property, and four is commodities. For me personally, when I look at business, I look at two sides of business. One is traditional, and the other is what you'd call non-traditional, things like network marketing, that sort of stuff, because they're designed for the average person to create something that otherwise they wouldn't be able to create. Okay, good. So Evelyn asks, expand on commodities. So anyone want to give their hand at what do you understand commodities to be? Okay, shares, good. So Rian, I would put shares into the paper assets, the stocks and the bonds. Where would you put commodities? Shares and financial instruments? Okay, so physical products or things. So where would you guys put gold and silver? Okay, so I would, well, you could put gold and silver in paper, but that would be electronically traded, which means you actually don't really own the gold and silver. So what Robert teaches, he goes, yeah, you can buy that stuff, but I'd rather own the gold myself and have the gold. So, for me, it's that's different in the understanding. Is are you trading them electronically, or do you physically own the commodity? Do you have that commodity? So those are the four core asset classes. Now, where do you put your money? Where you prepare to study, not where someone else is going to give you great advice. Because I'm going to go back to the first thing that I read. If you don't know what to do with your money, believe us, believe me, somebody else does. So do you want somebody else to do what they want to do with your money, or do you want to do what you should be doing with your money? And that comes back to educating yourself. And it goes back to that be, do, have. Who do you need to be? And it is a time-based process. It is an investment. In the Awaken Your Financial Genius program, the full program that we run is 10 weeks. And over 10 weeks, it's 3 hours a week. We play the cash flow game. We learn from one of the rich dad advisors, and we take people through a process of really shifting their awareness around what is it that they need to do. And what I advise people when they come in there is the 10 weeks is not about you rushing out and investing. It's about shifting the way you think and changing your being and understanding that there's different things to do in order to create something totally different. And once people become aware and shift this, then we start seeing some dramatic changes happening. But it's systematically done over 10 weeks, because when you simulate and practice, put it into practice, come back, put it into practice, that's when you start really creating changes. So, any other questions or comments before I move on and start wrapping up for this evening? Just remember this: if you don't do it, someone else will do it. If you don't know what to do with it, someone else knows what to do with it. So, Dirk, commodities, lowest risk, property, higher risk, business, big risk. Yeah, Dirk, so, when I look at that, I'd go, So, for me, and I think it's, I look at that and go, based on, for me personally, and that's me because I just love business. Understanding business, when I look at business, and I just have a much bigger understanding of business than on commodities, that I would rather put my risk into business, because I personally believe I have a better opportunity of creating success than I would if I went into commodities. Now, that's because of what I know and my knowledge and my mindset. Somebody else would go, I fully understand commodities, and I know where I'm going to put it, and I'll put all my time, effort, and energy. So, for me, it's where do you find that you want to create the results? Where are you prepared to invest in learning and studying and understanding in order to create the results that you want to be able to create? So thank you, Dirk. Thank you. Great contribution tonight. So so risk and reward. So risk and reward. And what are you prepared to risk, and what reward do you want? But you can mitigate. You can seriously mitigate a lot of that risk if you're prepared to invest in the most important investment of all. The most important place to put your money right up front is in here. Not in another degree, not in a piece of paper, but in changing your awareness, in changing who you are, in changing your being around money and where it comes from and how to create it. So I loved what Abdullah said tonight, that aha around, wow, I didn't understand it like that. Boom, that's an awareness. Now, when you start expanding on that and you start creating aha, that's when you start really mitigating your risk, because your mind and your knowledge and your capacity to take on those things is much bigger as you move forward. And any other comments or questions? Shani, thank you for that question. I'll get to that now before we finish off around what is the course cost. Any other questions or comments? And while I'm asking questions or comments, did you guys get value out of tonight? Have you enjoyed tonight? Did you get a valuable learning? And for a number of you, maybe not stuff that you didn't know. The question is, has it started to shift something? So Rion, I had a lot of person telling me where to invest. Now I can actually see what I want. Yeah, awesome, Rion. There's lots of people that'll tell you what you need to do with your money. Just ask them the question. I ask any broker this: where do you put your money? If they don't put their money where they want to put my money, I don't put my money there either. And then I'll go and learn where it is. So yeah, great point. Evelyn, what are the 3 questions again? Which questions, Evelyn? I think I asked about 50 questions tonight. The first 3 questions. Yeah, so one is, where are you now? Okay, so what is your baseline? Where are you right now? To get an understanding. Where you are is where you are. Okay, so I think let me make a comment on that. Just be 100% blatantly honest with yourself. If you're in debt, you're in debt. If you spend money and you don't, just the best gift you can give. Once you are brutally honest with yourself about where you sit financially, then you're in a position to change it. So the first step is